Coordinator for New York Agriculture in the Classroom. And over the summer and through the fall months, we wanted to reach out to our Aglercy grant recipients. We do offer a grant through New York Ag in the Classroom to support teachers and their work in the classroom focused on including agriculture in their cross-curricular pedagogy. So today we have Miss Jen Bailey from Argyle, and if you're not aware of where Argyle is, it's over in the Capital District. So she was one of our 2020 grant recipients, and we want to reach out to her and share her story and share how she is going to address this upcoming year, her successes in the past with agriculture. So Jen, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your community.
Thank you. Well, I've been teaching in Argyle, New York, which is in Washington County, a rural county in New York, for about 15, 20 years. I've worn lots of different hats in the building, but one thing that I've always loved to do is to get my hands dirty and make sure that the kids sometimes get dirty and have fun and learn. When I started working in kindergarten, I started working with Kathy Sweet from Cooperative Extension, our local branch, and she brings amazing programs into the classroom, and she really has helped support and guide a lot of the learning that we've done in the classrooms. And thankfully, as I've moved to different grade levels, she's followed me there.
So tell us about Argyle. You said it was a small community. Is it an agricultural-based community? We know it's in the Capital District, but is it far enough out where agriculture plays a major part with your population?
Well, a long time ago, it used to be very much all farms. And then as business changed and some of the farms started to go out, it became less of a farming community. Some of the largest farms, family farms that have been there for generations, are still going strong. And we still have those students in our classrooms. So it's really neat to continue to see the growth of that industry, even though it's a very challenging one to be a part of. I started to notice as the years went by in the classroom that the kids were less and less versed with just some of the language that went along with being in a rural community. Everyone loves the Washington County Fair. They always look forward to that. And as a teacher, I loved going to the fair in the summer and seeing all of my students. And they were so proud to show me their animals. That was really my favorite part of the Washington County Fair, was being able to do that with my own students. And, but I started to notice a trend that a lot of the kids didn't have the language that seemed to go along with the territory. Many of them couldn't tell me, like, what is a baby cow called? Or where do we get, you name a kind of bacon? Some of those things that our farm kids know because they've helped to process animals, or even how things are grown from seed to plant. I just started to notice that a lot of that was lacking. My mother-in-law is a master gardener, and she started farming flowers before I got married so that I would have a wedding bouquet. And I started to work with her then in the field. And I think that's really helped to guide what I want for the kids in the classroom. And Kathy Sweet has come alongside me, and she has helped introduce things through Cornell, plants, growing pumpkins, beans. We opened up pumpkins and looked at the seeds and talked about how they grow and what those ridges mean and where the seeds grow and how to plant them. And we've talked about a lot of different things. And then I met with Kathy in the spring, and I said, you know, I really want to do something with worms. And she got really just as excited as I was. And so we started investigating some options for worms in the classroom.
And that brings us to your grant proposal. So we did award you a grant, 2020 Agricultural Literacy Grant. And the name of your grant we loved. It was Vermiclassroom. Now, before we can get into your grant, did you have an agricultural background coming into this pedagogy? How did you get connected? I know you mentioned working in the field, but are there any other connections that you might have had?
Yeah, well, shortly after I got married, I was working as a teacher and I didn't have children yet. I worked for an organic farmer, the Alleged Farm in Easton, and I was his first farm worker. And we still keep in touch and see each other once or twice a year. And I worked really super hard that summer. And as an organic farmer, he wasn't using pesticides and things in his field. And so it was extra hard work because we were picking bugs off of plants and, you know, really investigating how to make things safe in the field to be able to pick it and eat it. And how can you tell if it's right? And I did a lot of learning and growing that summer as well. And I think all of those experiences and growing up near here, I grew up in Schuylerville, I think they just helped me to see that the world outside of the classroom needs to be brought inside the classroom, and that we have so much to learn by being out in nature.
So let's get into what is a Vermiclassroom. What is your goal with this classroom? I noticed in your grant, there was a quote that said, students need dirty work. And I love that quote. So outside of just, a lot of people assume that if you're doing an agricultural lesson, that it's just playing in the dirt. But how are you including that in your cross-curricular content? How are you, what are your kids doing? What is a Vermiclassroom? Are they all dressing as worms, or what are you gonna do?
I mean, I can throw that in there. That would be fun. We are going to have some composting worms in a bin in the classroom, and we're going to study them. And we are going to hopefully be getting some worm tea to use. And in conjunction with our FFA, we're going to be growing plants, and we'll be able to see the difference that worm tea will make in growing successful plants. So I'm really excited to pair up with our ag teacher, Kim Michael, has agreed to lend me some FFA students who will help my classroom kids to be able to weigh the worms, to be able to assess whether they're too wet or too dry, how much we're feeding, what we're feeding. There's so many possibilities with this. I'm really excited to see where we can take it. But I think the end result is having more worms. I've already investigated maybe some options with doing some school composting outside, because this will be an inside adventure. But yeah, even taking temperature, testing to see how much we're getting out of the bin, how often we need to change the bedding, what they're actually eating, what their preferences are for food. I've done a lot of reading, but I've also ordered some literature for the classroom that I'm excited for the kids to get into.
That's something else that we noticed in your grant proposal, is that you're including quite a bit of literature. So it sounds to me, in knowing the next generation standards are coming along, and they're really requiring teachers to create authentic learning environments and cross-curricular environments. So it sounds to me that you are able to cover math, science, English, social studies, possibly art. Any plans for any music?
I tend to be pretty musical, and I do sing to the kids sometimes. They just create the songs as we go. So I'm sure there'll be something that will pop out of my mouth that they'll be repeating after a while.
Well, awesome. So we noticed also that you have a pretty strong professional network. You mentioned your mother-in-law and a couple other people. In your application, you talked about Miss Ray Shraver, who's also one of our Ag Lit grant recipients, and she's in another district. So how did you create this network around you, and how is this benefiting you?
Well, I started to look for resources, people that I could talk to about the project before I started to put things on paper. Kathy was my first go-to because I was already in communication with her on a regular basis. And then she said, hey, there's actually a worm farm in Kingsbury. And so I went to a webinar that Bill was putting on through Warren County. And then I asked if I could meet with him personally. So I actually went to his property and I saw his establishment, and I stayed for 2 hours and asked a lot of questions. I actually don't live in Argyle anymore. I live in Cambridge, New York, which is about a half hour from Argyle. And here in Cambridge is where Ray Shraver has her classroom. And so I contacted her and I asked if I could visit and see what plans she was using for her worm farm in her classroom. Um, and then I've been in touch with her just through email. So I really started looking for different ways that I could put something together. And then I thought, you know, I could get some other backing that would be supportive. Where else could I look? And online, I found a slew of resources through Cornell. So I was super excited to be able to apply for the grant, and to have the help of Cooperative Extension behind me was really helpful.
So other than your Vermiclassroom, what awesome agricultural projects might you be planning, or have you planned, or have you done in the past?
Well, looking forward, once I establish my worm bin, um, if I do have more school support, it would be really great to get the composting going outside. I've looked at the 3-bin system. I've talked to Bill about his that he has going at his house and how challenging it might be to get up and started. And to be honest, I think it's doable. I just think that right now, the time that we're in, I should probably focus on getting the Vermiclassroom up and running. And then when we have some success with that, I would love to look forward and do some composting where we're taking our school scraps and keeping them out of the landfill.
So, and you also mentioned that you're working with your high school FFA. How did that collaboration come to be?
Well, that was a simple email proposal. I simply told her what I had in mind for next year and asked if she would be willing to participate and send me students on a regular basis to be able to help, to be able to look at the worms, literally take the worms out of the bin, separate them out, look for the eggs. All of those different tasks that I thought might be a little too challenging for some 8-year-olds, and just me by myself. So she graciously jumped on board with that, and I'm really excited to be able to partner with her.
Well, awesome. And you mentioned the CCE. It sounds like they're quite often in your classroom. What other recognitions might you have had in the past? I know we looking at some of the things out there. I think you have been recognized by your local CCE in Washington County for being innovative. Congratulations. Are there any other acknowledgments that your classroom has gotten?
Not really. I mean, I try to stay pretty quiet in there and do what we're doing. But I know when I get really excited about something, I want others to know about it. So I was very excited to share the news of the Vermiclassroom project with my principal and with others in the building. And I think once they see it in action and how many people get to be involved in it, I think it will really propel us forward to maybe even looking at that outdoor bins faster than maybe I realized.
Now, have other teachers come on board in your elementary? Is there interest in partnering with other teachers?
Yeah, well, I think that this year will be a good trial to see. I think maybe some people are nervous about, you know, will the worm bin, will it smell? Do I have to take it home with me during vacations? You know, how much upkeep will it really take? And until I actually do it myself, I won't have answers to that. Certainly other people that I've spoken to about their projects have put my mind at ease about those things. But until I do it myself, I would be hesitant to say to somebody else, yes, you should all do this. Not knowing, but I am very excited that the new science standards that are coming out are very much inquiry based, and kids are going to need to explore more and have less of me dictating something and them memorizing something. So this is a perfect opportunity to jump on board with project-based learning.
Awesome. So it sounds to me that you're able to fulfill through your new pedagogy that lifelong learning mission. So it sounds to me that you're learning and always learning. What is some of the most interesting things that you've learned as you've gone down this journey into a Vermiclassroom?
Oh, well, I was talking to Bill about the tea. I had seen many of these systems that you can buy online through Amazon that have a many-tiered system, and at the bottom they have a spigot. And so my brain went to, oh, you turn the spigot and everything that's wet has settled to the bottom and you drain it off and that's actually your tea. But that's not actually how Bill makes his tea. And so I talked to him about his system that he had going at his house to be able to take the castings of the worms and then puts them in a jug of water, the easiest way to do it with a small amount, and shakes that around. And I mean, I'm putting it in simple terms here for, for myself. But then that becomes what you're actually going to put on the plant. And you can actually feed your plants that better and more than you can with a commercial fertilizer. The commercial fertilizer is too much too fast. So it was really interesting to think, oh, I didn't know that that was the process that I would need to go to. And also, you don't need one of those triple tiered systems that cost $100. You can get a bin at Dollar General and you can put your paper shreds in there and, you know, the other things that we talked about adding to the worm bin for them to eat, and your red wigglers, and let them go to town eating and doing what they need to do. It's a much different process than I actually envisioned.
And do you have your students help you plan your projects as you're starting to develop them? Do they have research? Are they involved in the research as you're looking to move into your projects?
Well, this one will be an interesting one because I'll have a lot of the things set up already. It's my hope to get the worm bin in the next few weeks so that I have it before the school year starts, so that I can, I don't want to say play around with it, but kind of play around with it a little bit before I actually put kids in charge of a big project like that. But typically in the classroom, I've been able to have those smaller projects then move into bigger projects. For example, Kathy came to the classroom to do something on wool, and I wanted to show the kids all different places where our clothing comes from. So before Kathy came into the classroom, I showed the kids some videos of different animals and different, actually they were state fair videos that were talking about the animals and where their hair and wool and things like that they use for textiles come from. She came into the classroom then with a small ball. We made like a cat toy type thing out of a small ball. And that was a really great hands-on project for the kids. Kathy then was telling me about a project where she actually went to this llama farm that's in Ballston Spa. And she was talking to me about seeing the llamas and walking a llama. So at Christmas time, I bought my whole family tickets to the llama farm. And we went to the llama farm based on Kathy's recommendation and experienced it for ourselves. And after that, I ended up having a Google Meet with my kids because we were home during the pandemic. And I had a llama in on our Google Meet because I'd made relationships with the lady. And my kids got to ask all kinds of questions. It was like a field trip to the llama farm for the classroom. We never would have had that except for that relationship with Kathy and extending a lesson.
Well, I have to say, my 2-year-old would love to be in your second grade. One of her favorite books is Llama Llama Red Pajama. I don't know if you read that one.
I have.
But she would absolutely adore taking a virtual tour on a llama farm. Yeah. So you mentioned Kathy a few times.
Yes.
Is Kathy your CCE, one of your representatives? And how did you connect with CCE?
They would often the educators, I think there's 2 out of our local extension that will contact local schools and ask if they wanted supplemental programs. And very early on, I probably had maybe 1 or 2 a year. And then it got to the point where anytime they put something out, Kathy thought it was funny because I was often the first responder to her request to come in the classroom. But the answer is always yes, because I want to be able to bring the outside world into the classroom. And I want other people's opinions and perspectives to be inside the classroom. And, you know, I'm not a farmer myself, so it was really important for me to bring in experts. We've run a program before, PARP, Parents as Reading Partners. One year when I was co-chairing that, we had all local farmers that participated, And we contacted them to see if they would become mystery readers in our classrooms. And once they were done reading their chosen book to the classroom, the kids had to ask questions to figure out what kind of farmer they were. And it was really eye-opening that kids have this mindset that a farmer only milks cows. And also that we had this variety of farmers in our area. It was just really eye-opening. I think the kids loved it, and I know the adults loved it.
Awesome. And we do here at New York Agriculture in the Classroom have our Aglercy week hosted in the spring. So for those who are joining us live or watching this recorded, please check out our website. We do offer resources also, and that sounds like a great experience in part. I really like the idea how your students need to get their fingers and hands dirty. I think you're telling us all that teachers need to be able to get their hands dirty also. So how as a teacher has this type of pedagogy benefited you personally?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, kids and adults alike need to be lifelong learners, right? We tell the kids that all the time, but sometimes as adults, maybe we stop that and say, well, I don't do that, or I'm not doing that. And instead, we need to be open to the new experiences that we should have. And I've learned a lot alongside the kids. I've been able to ask questions about things that I didn't know. And that's been really neat for me and encouraged me to want to know and learn more. I love the excitement in the classroom when we're all learning together.
Now, facing this upcoming year, a lot of unknowns for not just us as an organization, but as teachers and educators as a whole in the state, be it at the higher level learning or in the elementary level. What is your view for this year? How are you going to handle this upcoming fall? And what are your plans to initiate your Vermiclassroom or other types of agricultural learning, as well as just regular content learning in the classroom?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go into it just excited for another year and excited to see my new students in my classroom. And if it's because we have to have our desks 6 feet apart and wear a mask while we're there, so be it. We're going to do the same type of learning that we would do before, and I'll put precautions on all of the different ways that we need to do that. But kids do need a chance to be able to be together. They need a chance to get dirty with their learning, whether it's putting their fingers in the dirt, which a lot of kids are really hesitant to do nowadays. Sometimes even on the playground, if they get dirty, it makes them uncomfortable. And I always say, oh, looks like you had a blast. So I just want to encourage that type, because if we do get put at home again, I've always encouraged my kids to play outside, but there's so much that you can do. Even taking the plants that we started in the classroom and moving them into your garden and then caring for them in your own spaces is an important way to extend the classroom to the home.
We do have a comment from Facebook for you. It says, my kids love our worm bin! Exclamation. They are excited about worms. Love that other kids get to have the experience. So if you, would you be willing to connect with other teachers and continue to grow your network if they were interested?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think forums and places for people to be able to share information about what they're doing in the classroom that works is really helpful to everybody.
So if you're interested in contacting Ms. Jen Bailey, let us know. We will make that connection here at New York Agriculture in the Classroom, either through Facebook or through our website. So we're going to wrap up here. We want to thank you for your time. Hopefully you've had a good summer and you're recharging. Any last words for teachers, parents, students out there before we go?
Just don't be afraid to do something new, to try something, to learn and grow.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Jen. And if you want to continue to participate, we have a teacher from Indian Lake in the Adirondacks where agriculture doesn't happen. We're going to see what's happening in the Adirondacks other than lots of trees and deer. So tune in on Monday, and we thank Jen. Have a great weekend, and everybody enjoy your Friday.
The live stream is stopped.
Enjoy your Friday.
Just ending. Perfect.
Well, thank you. So pretty painless, right? Great job. Thank you for spending time with us. So you have any questions for us?
No, but thank you for the resources that you sent me, because I've been investigating those and ordering books like crazy from the local library to be able to see what I actually want to order that I have to have school order for me. So
So what did you decide to do? Did you order the bin or did you get